पीछे से लगा
ऐसे ठीक है, ठीक है।
टाइट कर दो थोड़ा।
ठीक है सर।
शुरू हो गया?
हाँ सर, शुरू करो।
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
Good afternoon, sir.
At the outset, I congratulate the authorities of Baddi University to conceive this international conference on drug research. I am thankful that I have been given an opportunity to share my thoughts on some topics. A common objective of all those involved in drug research is to provide the humanity a long, healthy, and fulfilling life. In this pursuit, we all are engaged in developing a molecule with some intrinsic pharmacological activity, which is more effective and less toxic than the previous ones. Friends, during the last decade, the whole world has faced a catastrophic phenomenon called COVID-19. This was a nature's curse to humankind which did not spare any nation in the world. It caused massive loss of valuable human lives, extensive destruction of livelihood of the people, and great financial loss. The calamity united all the countries in the world to fight the virus. All the medical systems, whether traditional or modern, got engaged in combating the pandemic. Ayurveda has been the oldest Indian traditional system of medicine for the alleviation of diseases. It is a holistic approach to make the body strong enough through boosting the immune system and to combat the disease. There was a strong recommendation from all the quarters to integrate the Ayurvedic system of medicine with the modern biomedical system, which is called as allopathy. To large extent, the integrated system was effective in controlling the menace of this monster called COVID. The purpose of my presentation is to make the scientific community aware of the basic tenets of Ayurveda. Next. Ayurveda, an Indian system of medicine, offers the most comprehensive and promising model. Origin of Ayurveda is lost in antiquity. Estimated dates are that it is 5,000 to 10,000 years old. Ayurveda is a Sanskrit word where Ayur means life and Veda means science or knowledge. So it is a science of life. The first mention of drugs and diseases is found in Rig Veda and Yadur Veda. Both of system existed around 2000 before Christ. The earliest comprehensive description of beginning of Ayurveda is available in Atharveda. It is 1600 to 1000 before Christ, which contains description of human anatomy, and rudiments of the classification of diseases. There is a mythological point of view also, which the scientific community may find hard to accept, but for my Indian counterparts, it may be mentioned for their knowledge. So that's why I have taken the mythological origin of Ayurveda also. There is a myth that Lord Brahma, the creator of God, imparted the knowledge of Ayurveda to Daksha Prajapati, who he in turn passed it to the Ashwini Kumar twins. They were twins who were physicians to the god. The Ashwini Kumars then passed the knowledge to Lord Indra. Lord Indra chose Dhanvantari and instructed him to spread this invaluable science of longevity on the earth. Shushruta, a renowned surgeon and student of Dhanvantari, wrote his famous book on surgery, the Shushruta Samhita. The two main texts, Charak Samhita and Shushruta Samhita, are the foundations of Ayurveda. Charak Samhita, which is 900 BC, contains knowledge about foods, lifestyles, and drugs which give longevity, good health, and help disease prevention. The treatise consists of 8 books and 120 chapters. It lists 341 plants and plant products for use in medicine. The Shushruta Samhita is the oldest textbook of surgery and is divided into 5 parts. It is said the first plastic surgery was carried out by Sushruta Samhita, and he carried out rhinoplasty for the first time in the world. And he was also the inventor of more than 31 instruments which are useful in surgery even now. The Sushruta Samhita contains 184 chapters with the description of 1,120 illness, 700 medicinal plants, 64 preparation for mineral sources, and preparation based on animal source. It is an invaluable source, which is useful for the whole humanity, global humanity. Charak Samhita and Shushruta Samhita were later updated in the form of Ashtanga Sangraya and Ashtang Hridaya. These were you can say, the modern carryover of Charak Samhita and Shushruta Samhita. To name which these treatises which contributed towards Ayurveda, Madhav Nidan, that is diagnosis of disease. You will appreciate how scientific the Ayurvedic system of medicine was. Bhav Prakash means information related to the plant and diet. Sarn Gandhara Samhita, which is a compilation of formulation and dosage form. Besides these monumental treatises, a rather large number, more than 70, of Nigantas, Granthas were written, mostly between 7th and 16th century. According to Ayurveda, human body is composed of 5 elements known as Panch Mahabhutas. These are Aksha, that is space, Vayu, that is air, Agni, which is fire, Jal, which is water, Prithvi, that is Earth. Within a simple single living cell, for example, the earth element predominates by giving structure to the cell. That is the fundamental of the cell. The system has correlated with the modern system of science. The water element is present in the cytoplasm of the cell or the liquid within the cell membrane. The fire elements regulate the metabolic processes regulating the cell, where air element predominates the gases therein. The space occupied by the cell denotes the space element. So we can say that individual is a microsome and the university is a macrosome, which consists of these 5 basic physical factors and proto-elements. The individual and universe remain in constant interaction with each other and also desire and draw material from each other in order to maintain their normalcy and homeostasis. When the two elements combine together, they form an energy called dosha or bioenergy, which are the primary and essential factors of human body that govern all the physiological and psychological processes within the body. These bioenergies or doshas are called as vata, which is a combination of air and wind, pitta, fire and sun, kapha, earth and water. So vata, pith and kapha are the 3 bioenergies which are essential, the balancing of which is very important for normal body. The relative balance of these doshas or energies determine the health and disease. When these energies act harmoniously, the functions of digestion, absorption, and elimination create health, and imbalance between vata, pith, and kapha is simply understood as a disease. Ayurveda sees these primary forces in a unique combination in every individual and as a relation to characteristics of our mind and body. You see, Ayurveda is a holistic approach which not only, takes into considerations the characteristics of the body, diseased body, but also take into consideration the state of our mind. Now, every individual has a unique proportion of these 3 forces that shapes our nature. The ratio of doshas vary in each individual. Kapha, pith, and the third one. This is the attributes of doshas and their specific combinations within each individual helps in determining the individual's physical and mental characteristics. So, while the imbalance among the doshas is the cause of disease, the balanced doshas lead to healthy individual. Now I come to a very unfortunate phenomenon which has affected the whole world, that is COVID-19. COVID-19 is the acronym of coronavirus disease, which prevailed in 2019. It is a disease caused by a new coronavirus called SARS-CoV-2. WHO World Health Organization first learned about this new virus on 31st December 2019. There was report on clusters of cases of viral pneumonia in Wuhan, People's Republic of China. The world experienced coronavirus for the first time in 2002 2003. It is not a new phenomenon, and this existed in old form as acute respiratory syndromes, SARS, and in 2011, Middle East Respiratory Syndrome, that is MERS. In 2002 to 2003 and 2011, there were this infection was existing. For the COVID-19, so far there is no treatment available. Scientists around the world are working to discover a drug for the treatment of COVID-19. But there are available and recommended procedures which can be called as supportive care so that the life could be maintained. Essentially, supply of oxygen for severely ill patients. This you all know that how the non-availability of oxygen in the hospital resulted in so many deaths. And second is respiratory support system, such as ventilator for critically ill patients. These are both are the supportive care so that the life could be maintained, not the cure. However, from the existing armamentarium of modern medicines, some drugs they were tried, and as the physicians say, to some extent they were successful also, but a controversy always existed about their use in COVID. For example, dexamethasone, which is a steroidal drug, it is a corticosteroid which is used in a wide range of conditions for its inflammatory, anti-inflammatory, and immunosuppressant effect. This is a common drug used for a number of ailments. And a drug which is used for HIV is remdesivir. It was also tried. It is an antiviral drug identified early as a promising therapeutic candidate for COVID-19 because of its ability to inhibit SARS-CoV in vitro. Another drug which was tried and was found to some extent successful was another antiretroviral drug, lopinavir. This is used as a booster HIV infection therapy. Similarly, ritonavir, they're all anti-HIV drugs. There were interferons regimens were also tried. Interferons such as alpha and beta are family of cytokines with antiviral properties, and they have been suggested as potential treatment of COVID-19 because of their in vitro and in vivo antiviral properties. These are all the drugs of trials. Hydroxychloroquine, it requires a special mention because this drug was, when it was in great demand in the country and abroad, Baddi was, which is a hub of medicinal factories, was the main supplier of hydroxychloroquine to the world. And the School of Pharmacy and Emerging Sciences of Baddi University also contributed their expertise and other output was supplied to the industry supplying this drug. And coming back to hydroxychloroquine is an old drug. It is an anti-malarial, a hydroxy derivative of chloroquine, a very old anti-malarial drug, which is also used in the treatment of rheumatoid arthritis and lupus. And it regulates the activity of immune system. It is an immunogenic drug. It balances the immune system. It is originally included in the solitary trials, but was stopped on 17 June 2020 as evidence showed that it did not result in the reduction of mortality of hospitalized COVID-19 patients. There has been a lot of controversy about the use and effectiveness of hydroxychloroquine in the world, in the legal world. The Lancet also, there were controversial reports. Some said that it is effective, some said it is not. Now, however, a definitive conclusion was given by World Health Organization, which categorically said that it is not recommended for self-medication with any medicine, including antibiotic. This was about the hydroxychloroquine. In an interview given to Nation Daily, the Hindustan Times, 28th March 2021, Dr. Yusuf Hamid, the chairman of CIPLA, disclosed Merck has produced a drug called molnupiravir, a 200 milligrams capsule of which is the last word for COVID. They are very confident that this is the only drug recommended for control of COVID. Indeed, earlier tests have been promising enough for people to call it COVID's own Tamiflu. Tamiflu was the Roche drug which was used for influenza and bird flu pandemic. The answer is increasing the immunity to fight the disease. The body contains the organs of the immune system which protects against all kinds of diseases, infectious diseases. It plays a key role to maintain health and pathogenesis. It also protects the body from harmful substances, germs, and cell changes such as neoplasm. The key player in the immune system is the white blood cells, which can travel throughout the body through the blood and lymphatic system. Because there is no approved medicine against COVID-19, the immune system is the best defense because it supports the body's natural ability to defend against pathogens, including virus. According to World Health Organization, healthy food, hydration, use of vitamins and minerals are vital for maintaining the good immunity in the body. Micronutrients and phytonutrients such as vitamin B, vitamin C, vitamin D, iron, zinc, and selenium, they have been found very important in maintaining the immunity of the body to fight virus, including COVID virus. Then carotenoids, which are present in carrots, polyphenols such as resveratrol, gallic acid, and omega-3 fatty acid, which are present in fruits and vegetables which we consume daily For example, resveratrol is present in tomato. Gallic acid is present in a number of vegetables. Omega-3 fatty acids are present in abundance in linseed oil. Or who are non-vegetarian, it is present a large amount in fish. And those who cannot take fish, omega-3 fatty acids are contained in walnuts, akhrout. Physical activity is very important. Do not compromise on sleep. For a healthy body, in general, good sleep for 7 to 8 hours is the best way to help your build immunity. Yoga, which is an important part of older system of medicine, Indian system of medicine, and which is getting maximum popularity these days, not only in India, but throughout the world, is another wisdom from India. It is a extremely deep science that helps one lead a harmonious life. Yoga. Yoga offers not only physical health benefits, but is very useful in maintaining the health conditions. Those who suffer from insomnia, those who suffer from stress, those who suffer from depression, they are greatly benefited by the practice of yoga. The yoga is not one, but it has been scientifically classified into different types. Hatha yoga, bhakti yoga, raj yoga, janan yoga, karma yoga, and tantra yoga. I will not go into the details, but every kind of yoga has got its beneficial effects on the health of an individual. Now, Ayurvedic drugs are there. Most of the Ayurvedic drugs, they are obtained from plant sources, and every part of the plant is useful. There are many drugs which are derived from roots of the plant. Many drugs are derived from seeds, fruits, stems, flowers. All the parts of the plants, they contribute to their effective use. Now, in Ayurveda, there is a class which is called as rasayanas, and it contains a complete account of a number of drugs specifically used for the maintenance of immunity or immunity. Some of the common immunoboosting drugs can be listed, as you might be aware of these drugs. Botanical Vidania somnifera, which is ashwagandha, Ocimum sanctum, which is tulsi, Picrorhiza curua, which is kutki, Sida cordifolia, which bala, Asparagus racemosus, which is satabri, Veneria tuberosa is kudzu, Desmodium giganteum is salperni, Boerva diffusa punarnava, velvet leaf, Tinospora cordifolia, very effective immunogenic drug, Tinospora cordifolia. It is gilo, which is also called as guduchi. In Ayurveda, it is called as amrit, curcuma, nonga, haldi. So these are some of the drugs, singly or in combination or in the form of conscience of kada. They have greatly benefited the patients of COVID during this pandemic. Kada is a decoction. I mean, a smaller part of all these drugs or single drug They are boiled in water till the amount of water gets reduced to one-fourth the original amount. And that kada, that decoction, which is called as kada, is filtered and is consumed periodically by the COVID patient. And it has been found to be very, very effective in, to a large extent, combating the pandemic. These are other drugs, adrak, garlic, pipli, black pepper. There are other ingredients which have been used in this preparation of kadas or decoctions helpful in COVID. These are, so I just mentioned how the role of Ayurvedic system of medicine greatly helped in combating to a largest extent this menace of COVID. And the effort to find a effective drug in the treatment of COVID-19 still continues. Ayush, which is the acronym for Ayurveda, Yoga, Unani, Siddha, homeopathic system of medicine. Ayush was earlier a department of Ayush connected to the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. Looking at its popularity in all the Western countries of the world and in Asian countries, the Ayush has now been upgraded to the Ministry of Ayush with a separate Minister of Ayush. And its importance is being greatly realized by the not only American countries or European countries, but throughout the world. You will be surprised to know that many of the medical universities in America, they have a course in Ayurvedic system of medicine. They have appointed a Ayurvedic personnel there in each university to teach the effectiveness of Ayurvedic system of medicine to the medical students. It's not that only Ayurvedic system will help, but in addition to the common modern biomedical system, it is a alternative therapy. So, friends, this is what I wanted to share with you, and I would appreciate if there are any queries to ask. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kapoor sir, for the knowledge sharing session. We have with us our panelists, uh, Mishra sir, Bharadwaj sir, and Tejveer sir. Over to Mishra sir.
Hello.
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 Sir, thank you, Professor Dr. V.K. Kapoor, for delivering such a beautiful lecture on the topic role of Ayurveda in the management of this COVID-19 pandemic.
Thank
Already
you.
we are already we are witnessed the contribution of Ayurveda. Even as on date, most of the physicians from the whole world used to prescribe the Ayurveda formulations as a preventive care along with their vaccinations or other the medication shown in your presentations. But sir, there is some side effect of this means post COVID-19 management system, whether it may be kind of Ayurveda or the derived vaccines, both are from the natural sources. Even it may be vaccine or it may be some like Ayurvedic formulations. So they have some severe side effects. Few side effects are related to the skin disorders. Few like there is a imbalance in like physiological aspects. It may be related to the some cardio dysfunctions and other, which is still some deaths are occurring even post vaccination too. So can you let us know in what concentration or in what amount we should suppose to adopt Ayurveda as a preventive measure for this COVID-19, as well as some other diseases which are coming nowadays, like chikungunya or some fevers which are not going easily even after the basic treatment. There is some joint pain used to persist for a longer duration of time. It may be 1 month, 2 months, 6 months. So
Very good question, Dr. Mishra. I will refer you to an article which has recently appeared in London-based journal Lancet, the most authoritative medical journal, Lancet. In that, the article has clearly mentioned that a person who has suffered COVID-19 later on is subject to a number of side effects of post-COVID period. Predominantly, it has cardiovascular effect. The heart is the main organ which has been affected by the COVID-19 disease. You have seen a number of young persons dying in their age group of 30 to 40 to 45, 50. While doing exercise, they suddenly died because of the cardiac effect. So, cardiologic side effects of COVID infections are there, established and acknowledged by medical fraternity. Other effect is on their cognitive behavior. Those who have undergone this disease, COVID, their, thinking power sometimes gets blurred. They feel stressed all the time. There is a panic disorder occurring in them, and in some cases there is a dementia. So, cardiac effect and the psychological effect, neurological effect are the main side effects of a person having undergone the COVID experience. And recently there was an article in last week in Tribune Daily by a medical practitioner who has elaborated why the young people like Sudhansh Shukla or Raju Srivastav or a number of persons who have suddenly dying due to the gem practice. They died in the during the exercises. So I'm referring you to that article also, which appeared only last year. It is worth reading. These side effects have not been because of the drugs taking. Because there are no drugs, they are simply trial drugs. And but at least the Ayurvedic drugs, which have been found to be effective, they have not displayed any such cardiovascular disorders, side effects, or neurological disorders. The Ayush part is Council of Central Research, CCRS, Central Council for Research in Ayurvedic Sciences. They have, formed a group of experts which invited from all the persons involved in Ayurvedic practice, whether they were the Ayurvedic manufacturing houses, Ayurvedic institutions, Ayurvedic acharyas, all those who were involved in Ayurvedic practice, they were invited to submit their proposals for a new drug for the treatment of Ayurveda. I was a part of the team involved in approving the drugs for this system. I do not remember the exact number of the proposals obtained, but it was certainly more than 150 proposals were obtained. And only 3 drugs, 3 formulations, they were approved. So the research is going on, and the whole Ministry of Ayush is involved in finding a suitable formulation, a suitable, device to combat this nuisance. So, of course, the side effects have been very dangerous to many extent, and they are long existing. A person, if he has, suffered in 2020, the effects may be seen in 2025. So these are long-range effects, side effects which have not been controlled. The only control which can be recommended is leading a stress-free life, doing some modern, not very vigorous exercises, yoga, meditation, and you can keep yourself happy if you can. It is easily said than done. These are some of the factors which have been recommended to maintain the health and your mind, your psychology stable. It is difficult to live life. It is difficult to live life. There is no denial of the fact. But you have to adjust your dincharya, your style of thinking. जैसे एक सियाने सुप्रीम कोर्ट के एडवोकेट ने कहा है कि जिंदगी को जीना आसान नहीं है, जिंदगी को जीने के लिए आसान बनाना पड़ता है. कैसे? कुछ सब्र से, कुछ बर्दाश्त से और बहुत कुछ इग्नोर करके.
नजरअंदाज है.
So this was the, you ignore. कुछ इस तरह से मैंने जिंदगी आसान कर दी, किसी को माफ कर दिया, किसी से माफी मांग ली. ये गालिब का शेर. कुछ इस तरह से मैंने जिंदगी आसान कर ली, किसी को माफ कर दिया, किसी से माफी मांग ली. That is the only philosophy of living healthy and peaceful in life. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Professor Dr. V.K. Kapoor, for clarifying each and every point with respect to the role of Ayurveda and its contribution in whole management of our health, not only this post-COVID-19 pandemic. Still, a lot has to be explored with respect to development from the natural products. Now I request my other panelist, Professor Dr. Tejveer Singh, sir.
I would like to ask one very simple question.
Yes, sir.
Though Professor Kapoor has already given the title management, not prevention. So it is good that you taught that management from the Ayurvedic drugs is possible, but not the prevention.
Not
My,
prevention. You are right. You are right.
my
Because
question is, whenever the question of prevention is concerned, why not the patients go to Ayurvedic doctor? They go to the allopathic one.
very good question you have asked, Professor Tejveer Singh. Although Ayurvedic system of medicine is prevalent since the origin of humanity, this is what is claimed, but still, by and large, the common population does not believe in the therapeutic value of Ayurveda. The reason is they want immediate beneficial effects of taking Ayurveda or Ayurvedic medicine, which are available in modern allopathic system of medicine. If a person is suffering from moderately high fever, suffering from pain in the body, he takes paracetamol tablet and he feels relieved to a very large extent, right? Similarly, if there are infectious diseases one is suffering from, there are available potent antibiotics, though there may be enormous side effects of those antibiotics. But in Ayurveda, there are no such drugs. You see, infectious diseases are not curable through Ayurveda. They themselves say these things. They, they give the medicines through intake of which makes your body strong enough to fight the disease. It may not cure the disease, but it is a immunogenic compound or formulation which increases your immunity to the extent that the disease is fought by the body and you don't feel its effect. And in the Ayurvedic practice, you must have seen that it is not only the physical symptoms which are taken into account by the Ayurvedic physician, but what is his whole dincharya, what is the, different aspects of his personality which are taken into account, which you call it as the pharmacogenetics or pharmacogenomics. That kind of system is also there in the Ayurveda. तो प्रकृति उसको उन्होंने प्रकृति दिया, किस प्रकृति का इंसान है. Even the foods which are recommended by Ayurvedic practitioner, they have been classified as tamasic, sattvic, or tamasic. Third one I'm not remembering. So sattvic is the pure vegetarian food, tamasic, which is non-vegetarian. So all the it is a holistic system of, treating the human ailments, holistic system where all the aspects, whether it is physical, whether mental, whether your social behavior, what kind of thoughts you have, these are, it is a combination of that. And in all the therapies, the essential factor is faith. If time permits me, I'll relate a very interesting episode which is, encountered in medical system. There was a Nobel laureate, Dr. Schweizer, in his older days, after he retired, after 75, he went to Central Africa. And still the journalists were following him. He was such a popular doctor, a Nobel laureate in physiology or medicine. They used to go to him to the jungles of Central Africa. When they were interviewing him, a patient came to him and doctor referred him to witchcraft. तांत्रिक वगैरह जो होते हैं ना, सेंट्रल अफ्रीका में बहुत है. They referred him to witchcraft. The journalist which was interviewing him, he was shocked. Dr. Schweizer, you are such a known doctor. You believe in a proper therapy or proper medical system of curing a person. How come that you have referred this person to a witchcraft? His answer was, the therapy is based on faith of a person. You get cured because you have faith in me. They will get cured because they have faith in witchcraft. So all the therapies, they cannot be called as absolute. There is some element of, magic, or what you call shafa, in every therapy. This is that. If one has a faith in particular kind of therapy, maybe Ayurvedic, homeopathic, Sovarikpa, Tibetan, it all depends on the faith of humans. There are, incidences cited of being cured of incurable disease by Tibetan medicines, which are now part of the Ayush. They are called as Soha Rigpa. In Delhi, there is a Tibetan physician in Nizamuddin whose appointment is sought, years earlier. So, sir, it is difficult to say what can cure you and what cannot cure you. There are, cases where prayers, sincere prayers to the God have cured a person's unbelievable cases. So it is all the grace of God which should be on the human beings for their good.
Professor Kapoor, I have one related question. Why do you think that the Ayurveda has less side effects than that of the allopathic system? Is this due to the presence of single drug, or is it possible that in Ayurveda you take several compounds and some of the compounds are not going to have side effects?
You are right. You are right, sir.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Most of the Ayurvedic formulations, they are not single drug or a single root. They are a mixture of a number. First of all, the drug is to be in the form of crude drug, right? Then other drugs are also mixed with it. Within the same drug, if the drug is causing some toxic effects, there are other ingredients present in the same drug which are antidote to that.
Yeah.
For example, digitalis or sarpagandha. Sarpagandha, if you take as a reserpine, this is not a recommended drug these days for hypertension or for tranquilizing effect. It has shown extreme toxicity and is not recommended these days for the treatment of neurosis or high blood pressure. But if you take the powder of sarpagandha, it has the same beneficial effect without any toxic effect. It has been found that it contains certain polysaccharides. It has been proved scientifically in American universities that along with the cardenolides which are present or cardiac glycosides which are present in digitalics which are toxic, there are certain sugars which are antidote to their toxic effects. You will not feel the same side effects if you take, sargandha powder. But if you take reserpine, there will be side effects. There are so many cases, sir. There is a term like synergism and antagonism, which is taking place in Ayurvedic system of medicine. There are constituents present in the same drug which can potentiate the action of other constituent, and there may be antagonism of one constituent by the other. So as you have studied and you have seen, it is science, but unfortunately it has not been passed on to the general public in a way that they can believe in this system of medicine. Ayurvedic drugs are being imported in American countries to a very great extent. The government of India is earning crores and crores by the export of Ayurvedic formulations. And their drug act has been modified to include these. They cannot be approved by FDA. But the drugs can be imported in those countries in the form of nutraceuticals as a dietary supplements. So this is also, you have raised a very, very intelligent question that why there are formulations and not single constituents in the Ayurveda.
Yeah, Dr. Sir.
Already.
Thank you very, very much for your enlightening talk, specifically with respect to the Ayurveda.
Thank
It will be
you.
highly beneficial not only for us, but to the youngsters also,
Yeah.
in which you have already related the origin of Ayurveda and what is the present status
Yes.
of Ayurveda.
Okay.
In my opinion, I think we should adopt both. That
Yeah.
means Ayurveda for routine, regular, healthy, happy life
Yes.
with immunity.
Yeah.
The others also, but in case of emergency,
Yeah.
in case
Yeah.
of infections,
Yeah.
instant remedial treatments can be adopted, like
Yes.
that more in case of the fever or maybe surgery is also one of them.
Yeah. Yes. You cannot ignore surgery. You cannot ignore surgery.
And secondly, regarding Dr. Professor Tejveer's question that which one is more toxic. So there I would like to add one example only, that good jaggery is free from side effects. In addition, I think it has more iron, of course,
more iron.
component
Yes.
to it, but as compared to the pure sugar.
Even in Ayurveda, the intake of gur by the diabetics is recommended.
That's what I'm saying. That's what
in smaller quantities, good can be taken by those who are suffering from diabetes.
And hematinics cannot provide that much iron as is expected or given by the good.
Yes.
Very beneficial in anemia also.
Yes.
So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Over
Thank
to
you.
Dr. Ravinesh or Shalini.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Hello, Shalini.
Hello. Yes, sir. Sir, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Very good
So
afternoon.
you truly as a versatile genius, whose honor enough cannot be said. Thank you,
Thank you
sir.
so
Thank you
much.
so much.
Thank you so much for your lovely comments.
Thank you,
I
sir.
feel awarded. I feel duly awarded by your comments. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Thank you, sir. Now we have with us Dr. Alka Ahuja. Dr.
There's a
Alka
time to tell you.
Ahuja is a professor and chair of pharmacy program, chair of research and innovation committee, College of Pharmacy, National Institute of Science and Technology, Oman. She has worked as a chair and a member of various academic and research committees for more than 35 years. And she has also established a school of research on mucoadhesive drug delivery system, a novel and innovative form of delivery system through which drug formulations have been found more effective in terms of providing relief and reducing dosage. She has also worked on major research projects financed and supported by ICMR, UGC, AICT, and the Research Council, Oman. She has also worked on 18 funded research projects by UGC, AICTE, and TRC, Oman. May I please request Alka Ahuja ma'am to please share your presentation. Over to ma'am Alka. Alka ma'am, are we audible to you?
Yeah, actually, yes. Yeah, can you see my screen, please? Can you see my screen?
No, ma'am.
Are you able to see my screen now?
Yes, yes, ma'am. It is visible now.
Okay. Is my screen clear? It's visible? Yeah?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. It is visible.
Okay. Okay. First of all, a very good afternoon to all of you. And at the outset, I would like to thank the organizers of this International Conference on Drug Discovery, Development, and Lead Optimization. And I would like to give special thanks to Dr. Ravinesh, the Dean of the college, who has extended his invitation to me. And I have actually no words to thank the organizers for giving me the opportunity to listen to my own teachers. One, Professor Kapoor, and also it was great pleasure to see Dr. Bhardwaj on the screen as a panelist. Both have taught me. So in fact, I really enjoyed the session by Professor Kapoor because he used to teach us medicinal chemistry. And now he's talking about the holistic approach of Ayurveda. So that shows the versatility of a professor. And I was amazed with the knowledge which he has actually gathered all these years. And thank you so much, Professor Kapoor and Professor Bhardwaj, for now, today I would like to start my presentation on role of pharmacokinetics and drug development. In the morning, you heard Dr. Vishali Patil talking about this artificial intelligence. And then we heard the role of our ancient wisdom, Ayurveda. But my topic is basically touching only on the basic concepts which are helping in the drug development. Now, if you look at the drug development in our formulations and you look at the reasons for the failure, now toxicity is only 22% and lack of efficacy goes only 31%, and there could be market reasons which could be 6%, but 41% of the formulations, they fail because of the poor pharmaceutical properties. Now, today, outline of my talk is talking about some drug development pharmacokinetic principles, talking about the basic terminologies which are used in pharmacokinetics, then therapeutic drug monitoring, and some applications and pharmacokinetic characterization, and then finally concluding. Now, if you look at the drug development, you can see that drug research encompasses several disciplines which are all united by a common goal, which is the development of the novel therapeutic agents. Every drug discovery, or when it comes to the market, goes through these two major stages. One is discovery and development. Now, my topic today is to talk about the development. So drug discovery already has been covered in the morning. Now, what do you mean by drug development? It is basically the efforts which we focus to evaluate the toxicity and the efficacy of the drug candidates. Now, to be very precise, what does pharmacokinetics do and what does pharmacodynamics do? So what the body does to the drug is pharmacokinetics, but what the drug does to the body is pharmacodynamics. Now, if you look at this figure, you can see that the first thing is that a drug should properly release from its dosage form. And once it releases from its dosage form, it should achieve the right plasma concentration. And only when it reaches this right plasma concentration and it reaches the right target of its action, then the effect is produced. Now, what is the importance? Why should we be studying pharmacokinetics? Now, we all know that if we don't have a proper knowledge of pharmacokinetics, then what will happen? The toxic drugs would accumulate and the useful drugs would have no benefit because sometimes the concentration achieved might be too small to establish the therapeutic concentration. Or if we don't have proper knowledge of pharmacokinetics, it could be possible that the drugs could be rapidly metabolized also. Now, when we talk about the smarter drug development today, it starts with designing your program around a proper and a solid understanding of pharmacokinetics. Now, we look at FDA and other regulatory bodies who are responsible for granting the license for the product to come to the market. What do they go through? They go through the clear picture of the pharmacokinetic principles, ADME properties, and also they help us to understand the proper picture of the safety, efficacy, and other factors related to patient use. Now, under pharmacokinetics, these are the major four pathways or main areas, and the drug needs to be properly absorbed, it needs to be distributed, it needs to be metabolized, and it needs to be eliminated from the body. Now, what does pharmacokinetics do? It is basically quantifying all the processes. Now, quantifying means that we need to know the amount. We need to know the concentration which is being achieved once the drug is given. Now, if I talk about the importance in drug development, it is helping us to characterize the ADME properties of the drug, early stages which are involved in the development of the formulation. Now, at the same time, with my experience in pharmaceutics as well as clinical pharmacokinetics, which I gained in last 15 years after staying in Oman, where clinical pharmacy is really the most important field where everything is translated into the clinical settings. So the important information also talks about our impact of the food interactions and drug-drug interactions, and any effect on the disposition of the drug because of the organ impairment. Now, therefore, first we have to have all the foundation information from pharmacokinetics, because any studies, additional studies which we do, they will only be relevant to only a certain extent. Not that all the clinical studies which we are doing are actually very much relevant, because pharmacokinetic studies, they also help us to identify the proper dosing which is needed for future studies. Now, where do we need to collect the pharmacokinetic data? Yes, both in the early and in the later stages of the development. Why? Because we need to understand the complete ADME picture for all the drugs. And also, this pharmacokinetic data will also help us to understand where there is compromised safety and where this efficacy can be compromised. Now, what are the factors which are leading to inter-individual variability, intra-individual variability? All these are all these could be understood only if we have a proper knowledge of the pharmacokinetic principles. Now, if we are researching the pharmacokinetic properties at the early stage of the development, then there is very high likelihood that the downstream success for the clinical studies and in real world patients is really bound to be very high. Now, these are certain things which are important in pharmacokinetics, and I'm not going to touch everything. I'm going to speak one by one about these. Yes, the route of administration is important because some drugs, they might not be absorbed by oral route. Some drugs might be destroyed completely by passing through the liver. That's hepatic first pass effect. Now you can see why so many routes of administration were discovered, because some routes like sublingual for nitroglycerin, because the drug has high hepatic bypass that we cannot give this drug by oral route. Transdermal route will directly put our drug into the systemic circulation. Likewise, we can see there are so many routes and they help in proper bioavailability of the drug in the body. Now, let me quickly take you through the various principles which are involved. Now, if you look at the absorption, only the IV drug is that which is 100% available in a blood circulation because we don't have any absorption step. But for any other formulation besides IV drug, there are absorption steps, and absorption might be incomplete or might be very close to completion. But definitely it will always be little less than the IV drug. Even the drugs which have shown 100% absorption by the oral route, they would also be little less than the IV drug bioavailability. Now, one very important concept about drug absorption is the lipid solubility, because we know that if drug is lipid soluble, it would be completely absorbed. And also, there are two factors which change the absorption. One is pK and pH. pK of the drug is constant. Definitely, we can't change it. But we can definitely change the pH by adding some agent in a formulation, which can help in providing us a better absorption at the site where the drug is administered. Now, if the drug is in the non-ionized state, and what will happen? It will be more lipid soluble. It would easily diffuse across the membranes. So therefore, we have to balance our this pH and pK properties. We have to understand that if the drug is acidic, and if we are maintaining the acidic pH, the drug will be in the unionized state and we will have better absorption. Compared to if it's an acidic drug and the pH is alkaline, what is going to happen? The drug will be ionized and the absorption would be affected. Now, most of the drugs which are administered, they are absorbed through the small intestines. But when we are looking at oral absorption, the disintegration of the dosage form is very important because drug must first disintegrate. Then it must go into the solution. It must be stable. It must be stable not only outside, but also must have stability towards the enzymes in the body. Then also it should have proper mixing in our GI tract. Then the type of food, why some drugs are taken empty stomach and some drugs are taken with a full stomach or along with oils or along with the fat food. Why? Because of the absorption factor. Now the blood flow to the GI tract, because blood flow is again a very important component. If blood flow to the organs is good, then absorption will be better, the elimination will be better, even the metabolism will be better because more drug is reaching the organ of elimination or the organ of absorption. Now, then the formulation. Definitely, it's the most important factor. That's why we emphasize a lot on the formulation aspects. Now, let's talk about the bioavailability. It basically means how much drug reaches the blood circulation. It has nothing to do about the effectiveness. We are not saying that 100% drug is reaching, so it is effective. No. But yes, it is just claiming that the drug has reached the blood circulation. But what are the factors which will tell us how fast the drug is reaching? That will be governed by the rate. How much is reaching the blood circulation? We will check when we talk about the extent. But now you can see that you have given a dose. It is destroyed in the gut. It might have incomplete absorption. It might be destroyed by the microbes which are present, or it could be destroyed in the liver before it is reaching the systemic circulation when given by any other route besides the IV route. Now, if you have studied about these pharmacokinetics, I'm sure you would have learned about this area under curve, which is basically telling us about the bioavailability. Bioavailability is measured by the area under curve. It will also tell us that what is the maximum concentration which is achieved from your formulation. What is the half-life? Half-life means when a drug actually reached the time which the drug took to reach from half of its this maximum concentration, then or original concentration, whatever you are determining. Then C minimum talks about the lowest concentration in the blood. So this is talking about peak, this is talking about trough. Now, you can see from this picture, when the same drug, digoxin, was given from different companies which manufactured digoxin with the same dose, the different concentrations were achieved in the blood. That's why the drugs which have narrow therapeutic index, that is, they have a very narrow margin of safety, we don't switch the brands. And if we have to switch to the different brand, we have to monitor the concentration till the time we reach the right concentration which is needed. Now you can see that we have penicillins, erythromycin, rifampicin, thyroxine, where bioavailability is totally affected by the food. Why thyroxine or why these drugs, thyroid drugs, are taken empty stomach? Because we need sufficient time for its absorption before we take any food. Now, as I mentioned before also, that for some drugs, when you take empty stomach, it could cause gastric irritation. So you have to take it after food. But some drugs like tetracyclines, we have to avoid some products like milk products, antacids. And you can see also in tetracycline antibiotics, with your bioavailability would be reduced almost 50 to 80% in the non-fasting patients when compared to when you're giving the drugs to the fasting patients. Now, but on the other hand, there are drugs like glycopulvin, antifungal drugs, which are better absorbed when you are giving it with the fat meal. So that is how the importance of pharmacokinetics is very important. We need to study how its absorption is going to be good. Now, what is first pass effect? That means before the drug reaches the blood circulation, the drug is destroyed by liver. That is why many drugs, they have to be given by other route because there is extensive hepatic bypass effect. Now, let's move to distribution. Now, drug is there in the blood. Where does it go? It goes to body water. It goes to some general organs. It also goes to the specific organs. So that is what the distribution of the drug does. Now, let's talk about the factors. Now, when I'm talking about the drug being distributed, I must know about other factors. What is the protein content in the body? Is there any binding? What is the percentage of binding which is happening for my particular drug? Now, is my patient having some heart problem, some circulation problem? Is my patient suffering from diabetes? Is my patient showing any renal impairment? Is my patient showing any hepatic impairment? All these I have to monitor if I have to determine the distribution of my drug. Now, when I'm talking about distribution, I must say that plasma protein binding is extremely important. Why? Because if the person has malnutrition, less albumin, that means less binding, that means more free drug. And remember that why I'm so concerned about the free drug, because remember that only if the drug is free, it is pharmacokinetically active. If my drug is bound, it is pharmacokinetically inert. It is pharmacodynamically inert. It is pharmacologically inactive, and it cannot undergo membrane transport. Only if the drug is free, it will be active. It will exert its pharmacological action. It will also be transported through the membrane. That is why I must understand, or I must study to what extent is my drug getting bound to proteins. The drug is getting bound to agents present in the blood, like plasma proteins, blood cells. Then when we talk about the tissues, we talk about that is the plasma protein binding. What are the major proteins present in the blood? Albumin, alpha-acid glycoprotein, lipoproteins, globulins. Now, if you ask me about the proteins, I must tell you that albumin content is very low when the child is born, and also in the elderly patients. And albumin is bound to most of the acidic drugs. When I'm talking about alpha-1 acid glycoproteins, I must know that this protein is bound to most of the basic drugs. And in the elderly patients, the alpha-acid glycoprotein concentration is increased. That means my basic drugs, when I'm giving to the elderly patients, they will have more binding with this protein. So I have to completely understand that which protein is increased in the elderly patients, which protein is decreased in the elderly patients, to which protein is my drug getting bound to. Now, at the same time, the proteins also, they have number of binding sites. Now, it depends how many binding sites are my drugs getting bound to. Now, this picture simply talks about that we have proteins, we have this free drug. What is this free drug doing? It is crossing the membrane, it is reaching the target organ, and what does it do? Then it is exerting its action. Now, when I'm talking about how this binding is affecting my drug behavior, now suddenly my drug is boundless because I don't have enough proteins. Then that means there is more free drug. The effective concentration, which was effective in other patients, for that particular patient which is having less binding, the same concentration could be highly toxic. So what do I need to do? I need to study how much is the protein content, what is the nature of the drug I'm giving, and this has to be studied. Now, also, if my drugs are bound to blood cells, I should know whether my drug is getting bound to hemoglobin or carbonic anhydrase or to the cell membranes. And in case it is getting bound to my tissues, and I must know the order of binding, which is maximum in liver, then followed by kidneys, followed by lungs, and followed by muscles. Now, this picture simply talks about different disease conditions, like in renal failure. What happens? The kidneys cannot distinguish between what to filter and what not to filter. So what will happen? It will be filtering the proteins. So in our blood, we will have reduced albumin content. Reduced albumin content means decreased binding of my acidic drugs, but neutral and basic drugs binding will not be affected. I have hepatic failure. What is happening? Then my albumin synthesis is decreased. Again, what is happening? My acidic drugs binding is decreased. Then I have some inflammatory state. What is happening? My alpha-acid glycoprotein levels are increased. What are these proteins getting bound to? Basic drugs. my binding to basic drugs is increased. That is how we have to study various disease conditions and what is the influence of the protein on these conditions. Now, when I'm talking about elimination now, I must know that it is the irreversible removal of the parent drugs from the body. Now, elimination basically happens through the two major routes. One is through the liver, through biotransformation, and secondly, the major route is through the kidneys, through the excretion. But when I'm talking about metabolism, what is metabolism? Many a times we feel that metabolism is only talking about that drug is converted into the inactive form. No. Yes, majority of the drugs, when they are metabolized, they are converted into the inactive metabolites. These inactive metabolites are be inactive, they could be reactive, and I need to have a proper picture of the metabolites which are produced in my body. Why? Because depending upon the metabolites produced, the solubility of the metabolites is also determined. Some metabolites, they have such decreased solubility that they could even be deposited in the kidneys and they could precipitate and they could harm the kidneys also. So the metabolites which are produced, also we need to know what is the nature of the metabolites. Then what do metabolites do? As already mentioned, it could inactivate, but this metabolite which is produced might have the same activity as the parent drug. It might have reduced activity. It might have better activity, because you must have read about prodrugs, where the drug is, when it is made into the prodrug, because it has to have better stability or better solubility or to mask the bitter taste. But in the body, it is converted into the active form, which is needed. Then also we need to study if the metabolite is showing any toxic properties. Which is the most important enzyme which is responsible for this metabolism? The cytochrome P450 monooxygenase family of enzymes are the most important enzymes which oxidize majority of the drugs, because they not only act on majority of the drugs, but they are also acting on so many drugs which are structurally unrelated. There are so many types of reactions, phase 1, phase 2 reactions, which include glucuronidation conjugation, glycine conjugation. Phase 1 talks about hydrolysis, oxidation, reduction, methylation. So we must know that which are the metabolites and which is the pathway which is responsible for the metabolism. You can see that oxidation happening, metabolite is polar, it is eliminated through the urine. Now, drug is metabolite through conjugation. We have non-polar species. And now how is the drug eliminated? By biliary excretion. So that is how different routes of elimination, they are also responsible for elimination for whether the species are polar or they are non-polar. Now, if you look at this picture, it talks about various types of cytochrome P450 enzymes, so which are responsible for metabolism of majority of the drugs. Now, we must know that these enzymes could be inhibited, these enzymes could be induced. If the enzyme which is responsible for metabolism is inhibited, what will happen? The metabolism will not happen, and we will have high free drug concentration. Free drug concentration, it can exceed the toxic concentration also. More enzyme induction, more degradation of the drug, less therapeutic concentration. So whenever we are adding any drug to our existing regimen, we also need to understand whether it is going to affect the concentration of the drug in the body. Now, if I'm talking about elimination, yes, filtration, tubular reabsorption, secretion, these are all the mechanisms by which the elimination happens to the kidneys. Which drugs are filtered? When the drugs have molecular weight of less than 25,000, they are filtered. But tubular secretion is basically for drugs which are again bound, and they are also capacity limited. The process could be saturated. So we have to we also understanding where the mechanisms could undergo saturation also. Now, let me talk about the pediatric elimination, because these are two ages where we need to be extra careful, pediatric as well as the geriatric population, because all these mechanisms, they change. And in these two different, these two extreme ages, now you can see that aminoglycosides, cephalosporins, penicillins, for pediatric elimination, we have to have the longer dosing interval. Why? Because the filtration is matured only when the child reaches 3 years of age. So depending upon the maturity of the organ also, we have to modify the dosage regimen, we have to modify the doses, and we have to see what is the pH which is needed for the absorption of that drug. Then another very important component which we consider when we design or develop a drug formulation is the half-life. Half-life is basically what does it do? Now, if the half-life of the drug is very short, then what it means? That means drug stays in the body for a very short period. If the drug has a very long half-life, it means it is in the body for a very long period. So what do they do for a short period or a long period? That means our dosing frequency will change. Now, if a drug has a very short half-life, that means we have to give drug more frequently. But if drug has a very long half-life, it means that we can give the drug at a very long interval also, because drug is already there in our body. Now, if you look at these drugs like which have narrow therapeutic index means very narrow margin of safety. That means the therapeutic concentration, toxic concentration margin is so small that we have to give the drug more frequently so that there are no fluctuations. What are these fluctuations? Peak and trough. Neither it should go higher than the toxic concentration, and not it should go below the minimum effective concentration. So what happens if you are choosing the drugs with large therapeutic index, then you can easily give the drugs in large doses and also at long dosing intervals. So that is what these studies, they help us in determining. Then already the route of administration, like drugs which are stable in GIT, drugs which are going extensive bypass effect, we have to choose a different route of administration. Insulin, till date, we don't have any other route but the parenteral route. So we have to give drug insulin. We can't till date give the drug orally. Why? Because if you give the drug insulin, entire drug is destroyed in the stomach. Nitroglycerin, xylocaine, they have high hepatic first pass effect. So we have to choose other routes of administration. Sometimes we cannot even give drugs by intramuscular route. Why? Because they could have erratic release, they could have pain, they could cause local irritation. Then the site. Sometimes we think, okay, we are giving drug by muscular route, but which part, which muscle we have to give the drug? Like deltoid muscles, gluteus maximus. Why we prefer to give drug in deltoid muscle? Because the absorption is better compared to gluteus maximus. Why? Because the blood flow in this is better than the other. So that is how we determine which site, which route of administration, what should be the frequency of a drug. If the drug is precipitating at the site, then it can actually help us in providing the delayed absorption, which also might be needed. So we have to determine all these factors when we choose our drug development. Now, these are different equations which we use to determine volume of distribution, which determines in which volume our drug is contained. Clearance means the volume of the plasma which is cleared of the drug per unit time. Half-life, when the drug is reduced to half of its original value. Bioavailability means basically how much drug is reaching the blood circulation. But now, one very important thing for all of us to understand is the steady state. Now, what do you mean by steady state? Now, if drug has a very long half-life, it might take sometime days or weeks to reach steady state. How is this steady state helping us? Because it will tell us when to sample the drug. Now, what time I should take the sample to find out whether my drug is behaving properly in my body or not? This steady state will tell us